everyone, and welcome to IoT Small Talks. Today we are going to talk about the EV ecosystem, and in particular about the importance of the good connectivity management platform. My name is Anton Savits. I'm heading up the commercial department at Tele2 IoT, and today I'm here with Mark Tonner from IoT Cisco Control Center. How are you doing, Mark?
Really good, thanks, Anton. Great to be here.
To give you a little bit of a context, Tele2 IoT and Cisco IoT Control Center have a long-lasting partnership, and Cisco is our sole and unique vendor for the connectivity management platform. We at Tele2 IoT, of course, offer quite a lot of different services for our customers. That includes the SIMs and the connectivity and the various professional services, but connectivity management platform is really the smartest and the greatest part of our connectivity solution. And that is why Mark, with his expertise, is here today. So, Mark, what does this nice relationship you have with Tele2 mean to you?
You know, actually, it's a really important business relationship for us. You guys are an important player in the European IoT market, and so we've been working together for a number of years. So, from a business perspective, it's super important. Personally, what I love about working with Tele2 is you guys really get IoT. You understand what it means to the end customers, and you understand how important it is for everybody in the whole ecosystem. So, you guys genuinely get and love IoT and have so much passion for it, and that's what makes you so much fun to work with.
So as you know, Mark, from the very start, Tele2 IoT has been a horizontal player, which means that we are able to address all kinds of verticals with our solutions. And that was a strategic bet, and it still is for us, and it has been working quite well for us. And today, actually, we are going to talk about one specific vertical, though, the EV ecosystem. So what we mean by EV ecosystem is not just the electric vehicles or the electric vehicle chargers. We are talking about the entire ecosystem with the charging station and small businesses who are able really to innovate by adding that as a part of their solution. So, Mark, the question to you, how does Cisco see the evolution of the EV ecosystem, and do you see that as an ultimately growing area for you?
Oh, of course, it's a huge growth area right now, Anton. And the thing is that it's hugely diverse. As you were saying, the amount of different solutions out there, the amount of customers that you guys have already in the EV ecosystem is pretty incredible, from connected boats to drones to charging stations to the vehicles themselves. I mean, literally, you could say the robot lawnmower going around my house is in the EV ecosystem. So there's a great deal of diversity there, and it's obviously a really rapidly growing market. That makes it quite fun for us as old hats in the IoT industry to work in, because that diversity brings new challenges, new ways of doing business, and that allows us to evolve our service and find more ways to help these guys grow.
Absolutely, and it's so exciting actually to sign those new customers with the new applications. It's always a pleasure. So from our experience working with EV ecosystem, we have found out a couple of interesting lessons which we learned from that. And today I think that one of the focus of today's webinar is to go through some of those findings and validate how does Cisco Control Center help customers to achieve their business goals ultimately. So what is the ultimate things which you have noticed which is specific to that particular industry?
So, in general, Control Center brings value to your customers in a number of different ways. Firstly, IoT in general is a scale business. Even in the early days, customers are generally deploying hundreds of devices rather than ones or twos. Many of our customers have thousands, hundreds of thousands. Even we have some customers with millions of devices. So being able to manage scale is very important. You don't want all of these new devices to overwhelm your team, your support functions. So being able to automate a lot, being able to have kind of policies in place to run your business then is really important. So helping our customers scale so that they can get on with running their business, deploying their devices out there without worrying too much about connectivity in the first stages. So that's super important. The other key areas where we collectively help customers are around being able to provide a super reliable service. So having the tools and the functions to be able to support the devices, to understand how to bring something back into service if something has gone wrong. So those areas of functionality are super important. And then I think one of the other key things is really about managing costs. There's no point in having the best devices out there with the best connectivity and the best everything if you can't afford to run the business, if it's not fitting inside the business case of the enterprise. So we like to think we bring all of these things together, and together Tele2 and Cisco create this environment where IoT companies, whether they're new or old, can really power on to the next level of their business, knowing that their connectivity is in safe hands.
Absolutely. So you mentioned three actually big areas. One is scalability. Another one is about the cost control. And then finally, it's about the quality of service. So when we are talking about the scalability part of it, we have seen that from our perspective, we had an experience of customers just launching a small solution which is only going to work in one particular region in Sweden, but all of a sudden the customer becomes a European success, and then we need to make sure that we are able to hold their hands and support their journey. So what is very important for us, and the part of our sales pitch, is of course that when they are choosing the Cisco IoT Control Center, this is giving them the ability to scale their multinational deployments and also support the connectivity in any particular regions. Can you maybe tell us a little bit more about a couple of functionalities of Cisco IoT Control Center which are built for the success?
Sure. So, I mean, one of the things that's key about the service that we offer together is that actually Control Center is the most mature platform in this space. It's been around since the start. We kind of invented the CMP space. And that means we've got a depth and a richness of functionality across there. But customers don't necessarily need to be afraid of that because it's all packaged up in a really simple to use interface. And the whole point is that power is there when you need it. So you can start off quite basic. You're managing some fundamental things. Most IoT customers I work with in the first stages, they're really focused on getting their application right. They're really focused on getting their devices out there into the field. And that's great. So they're probably using fairly basic functionality of our platform to start off with. But as they scale, they also evolve and mature. And so I find that our customers then look for some of the more advanced functionality and some of the ways of managing things like international roaming as they grow and expand. So I think it's important to make sure that you've got all the capabilities you need today, but also have one eye on what you need in the future as well. So having that richness behind you that you can call on at the right point in your business evolution is super important.
Good. And then rolling to the next one, which was the quality of service. I think it's very important to highlight that regardless of what solution it actually is in the EV ecosystem, would it be a charging station or would it be actually managing the connected device, it's very, very important to make sure that the service is always continuous. The way how we approach it at Tele2 IoT is that we have a very clear security protocols, which we actually use for our business critical or healthcare customers. And to be honest, the way we apply the rules to those areas, the absolutely same rules apply also to the EV ecosystem. It's also opening up for the new business models because all of a sudden you are able, for instance, to make sure that you bill based on the particular kilowatt hour and everything. So how do you see the importance of the quality of service and the general uptime in this particular vertical, and what are the functionalities of Cisco which are enabling that?
So, I think uptime, service reliability, and in general is incredibly important. You have to imagine, and well, of course, you don't have to imagine, you're Tele2, so you know already. But these SIM cards, this connectivity that's out there is the front line of our enterprise's business. This actually represents what they do day in, day out. So if you're a charge point operator or maybe a POS player that's associated with that, then if that SIM card's not working, if that connectivity is not up, your business is dead. That site's dead. That's lost revenue. That's, hampered business growth. That's less people on your team. That's really hampering the whole trajectory of your business if you multiply that up at IoT scale. So we get it. And so our tools and functionality are designed so that you can get to the bottom of any connectivity issues really easily. We also have a bunch of functionality that's really aimed at spotting that early. Sometimes connectivity issues are not as simple as black and white, something's connected or it's not. So if things are trending the wrong way, then we can detect that quite often with some of our tools and let the customers know that's happening. So really intervening early and being able to resolve any connectivity issues before there's a business impact is kind of key.
Yeah, absolutely. And this has been our slogan, and this has been our kind of a rule of engagement. We try to make sure that we know about some things happening before the customer knows it. Now, finally, when it comes to the cost control, I see the two things from our experience. So one, it's very important to set the very right cost control rules, especially when we are talking about a multinational deployment. When the things are scaling maybe not only in Europe, but also outside of Europe, you want to make sure that your solution works wherever it is in the world. But second of all, it's also very interesting that as the EV ecosystem emerges, there are also solutions which are using very different profiles of connectivity. So for example, there are some charging solutions with an ability to have some kind of an advertisement place. And then all of a sudden, some of the trackers, they require more data and some require less. So how does Cisco IoT Control Center give this flexibility to the customers to manage their overall cost?
So I think there's a couple of things. Fundamentally, being able to control your deployment commercially is a big part of our functionality, and so we've built in flexibility from the ground up. And I know you guys take that commercial approach as well. So being able to scale both in terms of the breadth of your deployment, how many SIMs you're deploying, and the depth. So sometimes you might want to overlay a new service as you evolve, perhaps using something like digital advertising on top of what may have previously been a telemetry solution. So I think the flexibility in terms of the control center functionality and the commercial approach from Tele2 allows customers to be able to make that kind of business model and product pivot without frankly missing a beat, that we're able to move quite quickly. We can automate things. We can change the commercial constructs on the fly. There is something else that I am quite interested in seeing how it fits into the EV ecosystem, and that's we have some functionality called multi-party billing. Now, this was born out of connected car, and in connected car, then you might want to have several players all providing connectivity services, but in via the same SIM. Now, in the EV ecosystem, you could imagine a situation a little bit like you just described. So you could have a charge point operator who has a need to provide the telemetry services and all of the kind of control and functionality for the charging station itself. But as you say, there may be other players in the ecosystem involved around there, whether that's a point of sale provider, a Wi-Fi hotspot, would be quite handy. We're charging our car, the kids can be busy on YouTube and so maybe you could have digital signage there as well. So potentially you've got a mini ecosystem happening on every site there. So you've got 3 or 4 players, and how do you manage that type of complexity? And in the past, what would have happened is each one of those players would have had their own contracts with mobile operators, maybe different mobile operators at times, if they didn't have the sense to go with Tele2. And it becomes very messy and very disjointed and frankly a little bit expensive. But with multi-party billing, simply what we can do is deploy those multiple services on one SIM card, but the business relationship can extend to each one of the players in the ecosystem. So the digital signage guys and the Wi-Fi guys and the point of sale people can all have their own view of the platform. Their traffic is segmented, it can be controlled differently. And so it enables new business models and new ways of these guys working together.
Exactly. So taking the free market economy approach and putting it all across the ecosystem.
Yeah, you know what, we're all about flexibility. We just want to create an environment where our customers can find new ways of doing business that really works for them. And I think this area has some potential.
So Mark, you mentioned three different areas. There was an area of scalability, there was an area of quality of service, and there was an area of cost control. But all of them, of course, especially in 2023, they mean nothing if there are no right security protocols which are built there. So could you tell us a little bit more about the fact how Cisco IT Control Center ensures the security of those solutions?
Sure, security is fundamental. Sometimes I think if a CFO sees their SIM card deployment as thousands of little blank checks running around there that we have to control, then a CTO or a chief security officer sees all of these SIM cards out there as potential entry points and attack vectors to their network. So security is super important, and there's a number of ways. First, you want to protect the enterprise network, and secondly, you want to protect against fraudulent usage. Someone taking the SIM card and doing something unauthorized with it. And so we help protect with both. And so we have functionality on the device side, making sure that SIM cards are only used in authorized devices and being able to take action if we detect something that doesn't look right there. We also have a number of advanced features on the platform side as well about how to manage access to the platform, making sure that customers who are in more critical applications can apply even more security into how they log into the platform, how they access the platform. So access can be restricted to particular enterprise networks. We can authenticate against company networks as well. So you actually have to log on with your company account and make sure that your credentials are really up to date. So yeah, we provide a lot of functionality in this area, and security continues to be very important. It's all about confidence for our customers to grow, and together we really want to create that environment. So both from cost and from security perspectives, that customers have that comfort to grow.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think for us, security is also absolutely important, and we are very happy with services provided by Cisco IT Control Center, but we also have the general IoT security protocols, the APNs and VPNs and the interconnect services, which are securing the nice and smooth, secure connection.
Absolutely.
So when I'm looking at the EV ecosystem, to recap, we actually at Teletoy see it as one of the areas with ultimately big growth. And lately, what we have been seeing with those hundreds and thousands of devices deployed by us all across Europe is that there are a couple of takeaways for each and every person who is in the EV ecosystem today, which they need to take when they are choosing their connectivity providers. To name some from my perspective, I think it's very important to take in consideration the aspect of scalability, namely to think about what is going to happen to this solution in 5 years, in 10 years, and not only in terms of just longevity of the device, but also from the perspective of how the market will be disrupted. Second of all, of course, security is the absolute important thing. You want to make sure that it's up and running, and you want to make sure that everything is moving smooth and silky. But third, and I think that might be actually the most important thing, is that we at Teletoy IoT are building very, very trustworthy and friendly relationship with those customers to make sure that we learn from our experience with the customers all across the globe and actually bring this Scandinavian know-how where the actually electrification of the vehicles and the society in a way has gone quite far away. And then we actually bring it to the other markets all across Europe and make sure that we know the lessons learned from that, and then we can take the hand of our customers and help them throughout the journey. Is there anything you would like to add in regards to what IoT Control Center from Cisco adds to this thing?
I mean, firstly, I'd echo what you say. We're always learning. I've been doing this for more than a decade, and I learn new things every single day. And the new things that each of our customers bring to the table is frankly what keeps everything fresh and exciting. In terms of key learnings, I think some of my personal tips are, we're all about scale. We're all about being able to automate as much as possible. So my first piece of advice is, when you're using our platform, if you find yourself doing something repetitively, stop. There's probably a better way of doing it, right? If you're sitting there doing the same thing over and over again, then the chances are we find a way to automate that or do it in bulk. And so I'd recommend in that type of case, then talk to your folks here at Tele2 and, we'll together help find a better way of doing that, of automating or doing it in a bulk fashion. And so, doing things in a smart way, making the most of your resources, that's really key. The second is kind of related. So we have this automation rule functionality, and super powerful. It can be used quite simply as a notification engine. Something unusual has happened, here you go. But where it becomes really powerful is about automating parts of your life cycle, taking automatic action based on something interesting happening out there. And so there could be any number of reasons for that. It could be normal part of the life cycle deployment. So to give you an example, if you had a customer who has a global deployment, and maybe when they're setting up in the first place, they have a particular product variant that goes out to one country, let's say Italy, and they have a different product variant that goes to another country, let's say Canada. And maybe in the past, they have to stage those differently. They have people in working and, okay, let's get the Italian variant all ready for these devices and we'll send them out there. But we know business is dynamic. And so then what happens if there's suddenly a rush order, a big priority to get a bunch of product over to Canada, but everything I've got in the warehouse is ready for Italy? And so in that type of case, you have to bring lots of people into the warehouse, pay them overtime over the weekend. And so being able to harness this type of automation means that you can be smarter about how you're running your whole business. So, with some integration with Control Center, you can get that awareness of where a particular device has landed. So you could build a generic, you could almost think of it as a bootstrap configuration for your device, and then not produce these country-specific variants. And then when a SIM card arrives in Italy, it'll tell your application that, hey, it's in Italy now, and you can push the Italian config there. And similarly, if it arrives in Canada, you can push the config there. So everything becomes automated, and that's how you get scale. You bring your business to the next level by bringing in that type of automation. So we want to eliminate manual effort as much as possible to allow you to grow faster and concentrate on what's really key to your business.
Yeah, and we are all on this digitalization journey, trying to make sure that we automate as many repetitive tasks as possible. But also, given the fact that EV ecosystem is growing so fast, I think that applying all those lessons learned from hundreds of millions of SIMs which are deployed on Cisco IoT Control Center is very important. We can talk about IoT for hours, but I think that we need to stop here. Thank you very much for joining us, and thanks a lot for bringing all this perspective. Thanks very much for tuning in. For those of you who want to know more about the EV ecosystem, please feel free to download our EV ecosystem white paper under the link below. Otherwise, you can request a trial kit or contact one of our sales reps in order to unleash the real power of IoT. Thanks very much for joining, and stay tuned.
When you think of Sweden, what comes to mind? Meatballs, pop music, flat pack furniture, red wooden houses, Vikings, pickled herring, tech startups, and electric vehicles? Yes, electric vehicles. Up here in Northern Europe, EVs have already reached the tipping point. And it's not just about electric vehicles anymore, it's about the whole EV ecosystem. Charging stations, micromobility, payment solutions, hardware, software. Do you recognize your business? If so, we have the right connectivity solution and the right know-how, no matter where you operate. If you're ready to unleash the power of IoT and electrify your business, please get in touch.